Uh, so, the more feminine my body becomes, the more convinced I am that I am trans. I apologize. I've been self conscious of my voice my entire life, and a lot of times when I look in the thing and I look like a woman, I feel totally strange talking. Uh, so hopefully you can understand why, but it feels strange to see someone who looks like a woman, but to hear my own voice, especially when I already was very much self controlling and self conscious and self monitoring when it came to my voice. There wasn't much uninhibited speech on my part, so. Uh, but yeah, so the more I see myself look like a woman, the more feminine my body becomes from HRT, the more convinced I become that I am trans. And I would say that's partly because of the feminization and partly because of the craving that I have when I see it. And what I mean is that when I see my body becoming more feminine, I want it to be more feminine. Like I was just looking in the mirror. I went out to Walmart and bought myself a red bra. Uh, as a kind of present to myself, and anyways, that's why I'm wearing it. But I was thinking about what else I could say about that, but there's not much else to say about that. And uh, uh, what was I saying? I got off track. Yes, feminization. That so part of it is just well, really, there. I guess you might say there are three things, right? One is just seeing that I like it, right? So one is just seeing. When I say I like it, I mean like. What do I mean exactly? There are times when I see it and I think, well, I don't know that I needed this, but then there are times when I think this is part of my self discovery, right? This is something that I had to do, and but I because I'm hesitant because I could say that I like it, but that doesn't mean that I feel like I needed it, or like if I said like if I were to go back to living as a man and you were like, well, you said you liked seeing yourself as a woman, what I meant, what do I mean by that? Well, maybe I could go back to living as a man, because there are times when I see myself as a man and I like that too, but not quite so much as I like seeing myself look like a woman. And partly the reason I like it is because the feeling that I'm kind of out in the open. If that makes sense, it's like as a man, I was kind of afraid. I wouldn't say kind of afraid. I was afraid of people seeing the inner woman, people seeing my feminine side. And so when I look at myself and I think I'm not bad as a woman, there's a feeling of kind of relief, a kind of I can stop worrying, I can stop being afraid kind of feeling, which is what you might say that's what I like, right? But I do like seeing myself as a woman too. So that's one part of it. The other part of it is the sexual arousal aspect of it. That the more feminine I feel, the more sexually aroused I get. And not only do I feel more sexually aroused, but I feel more capable of sex. And I say that because many times in the past I felt incapable. I felt uh, inadequate is not the right word for me. I would say incapable is probably the better word. Inadequate too, maybe. But there were times when I fell in love with a woman at 32 years old, and she had a boyfriend, and I felt this great amount of pressure when she agreed to go on a date with me. Part of that was because she had a boyfriend. I wasn't so much worried that what he would do. I was more kind of like, I really like her. I think that I would like for her to leave him for me already. In the very beginning, I was thinking that. But how am I going to do that? The thought that in order for her to leave him for me, we probably should have sex at least once, right? But what if I can't do it? But there was a part of me that didn't even want that, or you might say that I couldn't see what I wanted, and that was where the kind of the feeling of being incapable seemed to come from. Was not really seeing what I wanted, feeling like I might see a woman and feel kind of attracted, but like the image of me putting my penis inside her just never came to my mind, right? Seeing myself as a man. It really wasn't until I started seeing myself as a woman that I started to see that. And I started to see that I want a woman's mouth on my penis, right? But it's when I see my penis as feminine that I start to think that. So the sexual aspect is the second part of it that makes me think that I am trans, at least to some degree. Maybe I'm not a woman in a man's body. Maybe I'm gender fluid or something like that. But something along those lines, right? And then the third part of it is the what I mentioned, I think, at the very beginning, which is just the craving. That is strongest when I am sexually aroused. When I get sexually aroused, like I can have just taken my estrogen, like say 30 minutes prior, 5 minutes prior, and if I say I take off my shirt and I put on my bra, and I start to feel that kind of like I start to feel aroused, I will start to crave estrogen again. I mean, I don't take it from a craving. When I take it, it's out of, you might say, routine, right? It's a regimen. This is my daily. I take 1 pill per day, 2 pills per day. Sorry, and but when I get sexually aroused, I'm like, I think I need a third or a fourth, and that is probably the biggest part of what makes me think that I'm trans is that once I start, especially if I'm aroused because I'm looking at myself look like a woman, and I start I look at my arms and I think my arms are too big. My arms still look kind of manly. I still have these kind of, they're kind of fat too. They're kind of, see that flab there. I want nice tiny little bones. Uh, and then of course my butt. My butt is never big enough, and my boobs too. There are plenty of times when I look at my boobs and I think I would like them to be about twice as big as they are. Maybe not twice as big. Uh, but that is that is the biggest part of, I think, what convinces me that I'm trans. And I still have moments when I feel like I'm not sure. Uh, but because like when I first started, I guess I'll just go back. I'll forget that idea, but I'll go back to before I started. I didn't really remember thinking that I really want like nice breasts, or there were occasions when I thought I think I would like to have a big butt, you know. But it is the way it goes is the more feminine that I become, the more I feel like, yeah, I really do want nice breasts, and yeah, I really do want a big butt, and I wish I had a bigger butt. So, yeah. Am I 100% certain that I'm trans? 96%. How about that? Hi, me. I think the two things that made me drag my feet. One is, well, actually, there's more than two. So one of them is, of course, is just not wanting to give up the idea of being a man, right? There's part of me that just kind of insists that somewhere inside me is a man, and maybe there is. Uh, that's one part of it. The other part is realizing that I still want to use my penis, and or you might say there was a fear around that. I had a fear from the beginning that at some point, like if I go down this road at some point, I might want to get rid of my penis, and I think that part of me was afraid of that. Uh, so you could say at least that my penis was important to me, and that was one of the reasons why I dragged my feet. And kind of, there were plenty of times when I thought, yeah, I'm a man. I'm a man. I'm not trans. I'm a man. Uh, some of that was just the social kind of aspect where I want to be seen as a man by people, right? I just want to be a man. I want to see myself as a man. I want to be seen as a man. But the other part of it was that I still want sex, right? And or at least I think that I do. I mean, I know I want sex, but what way do I want it? That was the part that wasn't clear. But where was I going with that? Me dragging my feet. So the penis, the wanting to see myself as a man, and the hairline. The hairline was actually one of the bigger, fairly large contributor to me dragging my feet. I am wearing a wig. My hairline is not. I'm not bald, but I don't look like a woman. As soon as I take the wig off, I feel like I'm not a woman anymore. I feel like I'm just not. I'm not looking at a woman. When I put the wig back on, suddenly I'm like I'm a different person. I feel that's what I shouldn't even call it a feeling, but that's just what I feel like I'm looking at. Uh, it is nice that I can see myself as I record myself. I think if I couldn't see myself, it would have a totally different experience. I might have totally different videos also. But so the hairline is an example, I guess, of the some of the masculine features that I have that I felt like would never really change, or that I couldn't do anything about, like my large torso. I have a fairly large torso, a little bit fat too. A little bit fat. The torso, the hands aren't too bad, but I can't really do much about the size of my hands. Actually made me feel better when I dated the girl and her hands were the same size as mine. Uh, I was a little bit embarrassed, but also at the same time relieved, because I felt like, well, at least my hands are not bigger than hers. But at the same time, I was like, oh shit. But at that time, I wasn't thinking that I was trans. I suspected, but I wasn't even digging in that area. Uh, so yeah, the masculine features that I may be stuck with for life. These are the sorts of things that kind of make me drag my feet. You know, because I think from the beginning, I don't think at any point did I say to myself, I am 100% certain that I am trans. It hasn't happened yet. So, and then the other part of the reason that I'm one of the reasons why I drag my feet also is just the dream that I had, right? About the hermaphroditic Christ. This man shows up at a woman's house and starts to take off his top, or he takes off his top and reveals that he has breasts, and but one half of his body is covered with hair, the other is completely hairless, essentially showing the woman that he is part man, part woman. And when I had that dream, I had this sort of like, that's what I want to be. That's how I want to see myself. And so the idea of being part man, part woman has been kind of stuck in my head as partly because it was the Christ in the dream. I had this. He didn't say it to the woman, but it was something that was just one of those dream knowledge things that you just know, having the dream. And of course, I woke up and I thought, who doesn't want to be the Christ, right? Who doesn't want to be like the Christ, anyways? And if the Christ is a hermaphrodite, then I'm already inclined to seeing myself with the feminine side and a masculine side. So why not just be a hermaphrodite? That's one of the reasons that I drag my feet on the idea of being trans in the sense of being a woman uh, in a man's body, or however you want to put it. Uh, yeah, I think I've said enough.